In the days before Royal Ascot, something has shifted inside Kensington Palace. According to insiders, Catherine, Princess of Wales, has drawn a line that almost no one expected her to draw. The reports say she has blocked Queen Camilla from the children's box on the final day of the meeting and made it clear that what Princess Charlotte wears that day will be Kate's decision, and Kate's alone. This is not a quiet note about a seating chart. Sources close to the Wales household describe it as the moment Kate stopped asking and started deciding. For years, the arrangements around the youngest royals were quietly managed by others. Now, with the closing day of Ascot approaching, that arrangement has reportedly ended. Here's what we found. This is not just a disagreement about a day at the races. It is about who controls the next generation of the monarchy and who gets to shape them in front of the world. Royal Ascot is one of the most watched events in the royal calendar, with crowds of more than 60,000 a day and a global television audience. The children's box is one of the few places where the future of the crown is put on public display. Whoever decides what happens inside that box is deciding, in a small but very visible way, who holds influence over the line of succession itself. So here is what we're going to look at. First, how this decision reportedly came together in the weeks before Ascot. Second, why Camilla has spent 3 years pushing for central positioning at the family's biggest events. Third, how Prince William stepped in to back his wife without hesitation. And finally, why royal watchers are now comparing Charlotte's situation to the battles Princess Diana once fought for her own sons. To understand why this matters, you have to go back several years. Since becoming queen, Camilla has steadily taken on a more central role at state occasions. That is not unusual for a queen consort, and there is real work behind it. She has supported hundreds of engagements, backed more than 90 charities, and earned genuine respect for her steadiness during one of the hardest periods the family has faced. Few people seriously doubt her commitment to the institution. But behind the scenes, sources tell a different story about the smaller, more personal moments. According to Closer, Camilla has repeatedly involved herself in decisions about where the Wales children sit, how they are positioned for photographs, and even what they wear. At Easter in 2025, insiders say she pushed for changes to the family's arrangement at the last minute. At Trooping the Colour, she is said to have done something similar more than once, overriding choices that Kate had already made. Royal commentator Richard Fitzwilliams told the Daily Mail that the relationship between the two women has always been more complicated than the public is allowed to see. He noted that while they present a united front in public, there have been quiet disagreements about how large a role the older generation should play in raising the youngest royals. For 3 years, those disagreements stayed behind palace doors. And the pattern, insiders say, was always the same, Camilla suggested. Kate adjusted. The matter was closed. There is also a longer history here, one that reaches well beyond Camilla. For generations, the palace machinery has carefully stage-managed how royal children appear in public, deciding when they are seen, how they are dressed, and where they are placed for the cameras. Kate, insiders note, has spent more than a decade learning that machinery from the inside. When she married into the family in 2011, she largely deferred to it. According to Hello, that began to change after she became Princess of Wales, when she started taking firmer control of her children's public schedule, limiting their appearances and choosing their moments with real care. Royal author Robert Jobson has described her as one of the most deliberate parents the modern monarchy has seen. So when sources say she finally pushed back ahead of Ascot, it fits a pattern that has been building quietly for years. What changed, according to palace sources, is simple. Kate stopped adjusting. The first sign came in the planning for Ascot itself. While there is no official confirmation of any internal conflict, sources close to the household say Kate informed the relevant staff several weeks ago that the children's box would be organised by her own office and no one else's. It was, one insider told OK magazine. a quiet instruction rather than a loud confrontation. But the meaning was unmistakable. Every decision about Charlotte, George, and Louis would now run through their mother. The second development is the one drawing the most attention. According to reports, Kate also made clear that Charlotte's wardrobe for the closing day would be entirely her choice, and that there would be no last-minute suggestions accepted from anyone else. This might sound like a small thing. It is not. For a young princess who is increasingly in the public eye, what she wears has become a statement about how she is presented and by whom. Insiders say Kate wanted that statement to come from the Wales household and from nowhere else. The third and most striking claim is about Camilla's position itself. Palace sources say Kate has indicated that Camilla will be seated in a secondary box for the Children's Day and that she will not be directing the arrangements around the young royals at all. There is no suggestion this was done with any unkindness. By every account, it was handled calmly and privately. But the message, insiders say, could not have been clearer. The era of the older generation quietly managing the Wales children in public is over. To understand the human weight of all this, you have to look at the man standing beside Kate. William reportedly supported his wife's decision without a moment's hesitation. Sources say he has grown increasingly protective of how his children are presented, and increasingly firm about keeping those decisions inside his own household. This is not just a husband backing his wife. It is the future king signalling that the Wales family will set its own terms. Those close to the couple describe a household that has become noticeably more unified over the past 2 years. Where there were once whispers of William deferring to his father's court on family matters, sources now say the Wales household operates as a single unit, making its own calls and standing behind them together. The decision about Ascot, in that sense, was never really about one afternoon at the races. It was about drawing a boundary and making sure everyone understood exactly where that boundary now sits. And here is where the story reaches back across the decades. Diana spent much of her time inside the royal family, fighting for the right to raise her sons her own way. She wanted William and Harry to have ordinary experiences, to be shielded from the heavier machinery of the institution, to belong to her as much as to the crown. Those fights were often quiet, and they were often lonely. Royal biographer Ingrid Seward has written about how fiercely determined Diana was to protect her children's autonomy, even when it placed her directly at odds with the palace. Now, many years later, William appears to be carrying that same instinct forward. The parallels are hard to ignore. Where Diana once resisted the old guard for the sake of her boys, William and Kate are reportedly resisting it for the sake of Charlotte and her brothers. And Charlotte, in particular, has become the quiet centre of this. At 11 years old, she is growing steadily into her public role, and the question of who shapes that role has become one of the most important questions in the entire family. There is no villain in a black hat here. Camilla has given years of service, and her instinct to be involved may come from genuine affection rather than ambition. But affection and control can look very similar from the outside. And the Wales household, sources say, has finally decided which of the two it is willing to accept. What this means going forward is far bigger than a single afternoon at the races. It suggests that the balance of influence inside the royal family is shifting from one generation to the next, not through any dramatic announcement, but through a series of small, deliberate decisions about who gets to shape the children who will one day inherit the crown. And there is one last detail worth holding on to. Insiders say that whenever Kate asserts this kind of independence, Camilla tends to go quiet for a while. That silence is not surrender. Those who know the dynamics well say it has always been something else. A pause, a recalibration, the space a person leaves before they answer. The arrangements for Ascot may now be settled. What follows them almost never stays settled for long.